Joining us here at PRESSfeed for our webinar today. And today we're going to be talking to you about making news video. And I have with me today Koki, who's very experienced in this field.
Hello, hi everybody. We'll be talking about news video, specifically how to make news video for your releases, tricks, little tips, and things to do and things not to do.
Okay, so let's get started as soon as I can get this thing to move. There we go. Okay, I'm sure as you're all aware, we are in the middle of a conversational revolution that's happening online. This is a quote from a book called The Clue Train Manifesto. If you have not yet read The Clue Train Manifesto, you should. You can actually read the original free online at cluetrain.com. It's not a new book. It was actually published in the year 2000. But it will give you a very good grounding in what social media is really all about. Now, if you're familiar with the TED Talks, TED is Technology, Entertainment, and Design. This was one of the TED Talks given by one of their founders, Chris Anderson, who wrote the book Wired. And he was talking about why video is really such an amazing medium and why it's growing so fast as the technology develops and we have the bandwidth. Video is really becoming the major medium. So it's interesting that he says our brains are exquisitely wired for video. And he said that what Gutenberg did for writing with the printing press, so online video will do for face-to-face communication. It really allows you to humanize what you're doing and to show. If a picture is worth 1,000 words,
a video is worth way more than that. You're able to engender a lot more emotion. You're able to create a human connection. It's those sorts of things that are part of the human makeup that you really can't get away from, and it's those things that make stories so compelling.
So this will give you an idea of the video growth that's predicted. This is from Cisco. They did a survey and they've done some analysis and predictions. It's not a kind of hockey stick straight up and vertical graph, but it's growing steadily on a really nice increase, and they expect that to continue. So much so that by 2015, they're predicting 2/3 of all consumer traffic on the internet will be video. And there's many studies to show that video is influencing brand lift and retention and definitely purchase intent. Yeah. So you have to, it's just something that you've got to do. We spent many years in the 90s making video news releases and sending them off to the TV station. Mm-hmm. But luckily for us, you don't have to go to the expense that we had to in those days. It's much easier to make a video now.
It's far easier. It's far cheaper. Technology's made, it's just really made everybody's life a lot easier. Although for some, you may feel like it's clogging up your day because you have a lot more that you have to do. And you have to start broadcasting and thinking like a publisher. But once you get your head around that, all of the tools have made the job a lot easier. For instance, before you wanted to make your video and get it out, you then had to get a really expensive crew together, lights. You had to find out, okay, you're going to get your script, you're going to shoot the whole thing, and then once you've shot the whole thing, you've got to send all of that off as on tape to somebody. All of those days are gone. Now we're able to actually just uplink it as you would to a satellite, but you're doing it via the web. The web is the most powerful way to consume media that's ever been created, and it's just growing faster and faster. The more that we're able to get broadband speeds on our mobile devices, the more video is going to be voraciously consumed by your clients and your customers, whether you're B2B or B2C.
So here are some stats about video use currently. You can see it's a very big universe of users. That was just from not even a month ago, December 2011, from ComScore. So that averages to 23 hours per viewer. And that 85% of them, of all the internet audience, is viewing online video. And we talk a bit about what you were saying earlier about the phones and the news.
Well, you know, the statistic is that people, it will show you a little bit later what people are sharing and what people are watching. But the news is one of the most consumed video items on the net. We know that people are watching video, but the reason for news video is you're able to, first of all, pick the news stories that you want, that ping you in your human makeup, in your brain, that goes, oh, that's interesting. And you're then able to freely forward it and share it, whether that's on Facebook, Dig, Reddit, however you want to share that. There's a share button. You can Google +1 it, and that immediately goes to your network of friends. The fact that the demographics are shifting and they're getting older, so it's not just Gen Y and Gen X that are using these devices like tablets or smartphones. You're getting baby boomers every morning checking the news. You have people that are lurking on the web that aren't necessarily tweeting, but they're using Twitter to filter out all of the messages that they want. They use it as an amazing, powerful newspaper portal. And then they follow all of the newspapers that they want and all of the different portals and people that they find interesting, and they watch video on their mobile device, whether that's in a coffee shop connected to wireless or in their home or on 3 or 4G.
So you can see that taking the entire demographic, all age groups, news is number 5. And then how-tos. Those are the two that, as PR people, we should be really paying attention to.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about traditionally as PR, you're trying to get your message out and you want them to buy in. That's what you want. And for a how-to video is incredibly powerful. They're already there. Your audience is ready and waiting, and they're asking the question, and you're filling the space. A lot of times on online content, you're filling a demand. And sometimes when you go through your strategy and you're listening, you'll find the demand, and you can then supply that demand that is already there.
Absolutely. And one thing to remember with that as well is that YouTube is being used as a search engine. It was never built as a search engine, but exactly as Coty is saying, people are looking for things. Mm-hmm. So they're saying, how do I do this or that? And then your choice is, do I want to go to Google where I'm going to get text?
Yeah.
Or if I search on YouTube, I know I'm going to get a video, and then it's visual, and I can actually see it being demonstrated. And that's why YouTube has grown as a search engine.
So here we are. These are the people that share videos, and this is from Sysomos. And you can see there the age bracket of 20 to 35. I mean, that's nearly 60%. That's 57.3. And then 36 to 60, now that's a fairly broad age range. But that's really sharing a fair amount, 21%. The senior is 1.4%, and that is a lot of the times now you're finding when they're moving into a new place, they're cable ready or broadband ready, and the packages that are being given, with your cable, you suddenly have incredibly powerful and fast internet, and they're connecting to their families. Now, when they're connecting to their families, they've got Facebook, and they're watching videos and pictures of their grandkids, and then once they do that, well, they suddenly realize, well, guess what? I'm able to get on YouTube and I can watch all this different stuff. And then somebody says, look at Netflix, look at Hulu. Oh, I can get all my shows whenever I want them. This is fantastic. And my news. And the news is the thing that you know what people are like. As soon as they get a little bit older, they retire, they sit there and they're slightly crotchety and they want to know what's going on. The other people that are sharing news and are using that in that age bracket that are seniors are CEOs of big companies that either have been taught or have taught themselves, and they are super tech savvy and they use it. They use it often, and they are super dialed into news, and they're so busy they don't want to read page after page after the page. Show me a short video, get to it, and if I have to, I'll put my finger on the little dot and move it along the line and skip a couple minutes ahead.
And you can see from this one that in the senior age group, news is actually the number 2 item. It's the red line is news. So it's very low in teenagers, but it's actually number 2. And interestingly enough, music is still number 1, even for the seniors.
Yeah.
Okay. So news is number 2 from like the middle of the 36 to 60s. And
from the 40s up.
Yeah. So one of the things that it does is it humanizes, and it allows you to see the person, and you can really get an idea of who they are, and you can connect with them on a really personal level.
Yep. I mean, the fact that you're able to add music, your visuals tell a story, stills, high-quality picture, and most of all, it's the message that you're sending when you interview someone, especially for a news piece. You can't hide what somebody's eyes say on a video if it's shot a certain way. And that really appeals to client base and to customers, and a lot of the time that actually then translates into the customer and you creating a bond that wasn't there before, and it turns into possible buying. They have a buy-in because they believe you. You're real. You're a real person.
So here are a couple of examples. The one on the top left is Gary Vaynerchuk, known online as Gary V. I don't know if you're familiar with him and his story. He wrote the book called The Thank You Economy, which you would find very interesting and useful. And he really has become a bit of a social media phenomenon. His family had a fairly small liquor store in New Jersey, and Gary saw the value of the internet and started a site online called winelibrary.tv. And he just makes videos and talks to people, just as though he were talking to you. And it's grown unbelievably huge. This other one is the Booz Allen Hamilton Company. They put out a statement and a report called No Excuses, No Regrets. And they actually had their CEO do his whole spiel on video rather than just put out a written statement. And then when you watch this video, you get his passion and you get what he's really all about.
You know, the thing that's changing so dramatically and so fast is the fact that you're able to have real people do real communication. And that's where you're getting buy-in, because for the first time, your company or your organization is real. And it's made real to somebody that's never met you. That's really the difference. You're having real communication with these people, and they're getting excited about it or not excited about it and having reactions in whatever way. But video is creating the conversation, and the conversation is what's powerful, because it's when two people are talking about you in a room and that other person has never heard of you, then they go and do a search, or they don't have to do that anymore. They can just put the phone right there on the table and play a video. That's why this is powerful.
And you'll see this one, the Booz Allen Hamilton one's been seen over 60,000 times.
But that's also an interesting statistic, because how many people have actually viewed that? Is that 60,000 people? Or were there 4 people around the phone and they were showing a couple of people at once? So how many people is that? So you have to ask yourself a question, who is actually watching it and how many people are watching, and what is your real depth of reach?
Right. So what are you going to video? First and foremost, it's going to be with a piece of news, hopefully with your social media news release.
Right.
And you need a news hook. There's a fascinating book that was just released a few months ago by David Nearman Scott called Newsjacking, which is something we've been doing for a very long time.
Yes.
Oh, my secrets are out. I read the book and I went, damn, he's telling everyone.
Yeah.
But you just have to have a way to connect yourself into something that's going, something that's going on.
Something relevant, something that is a buzz on the wire. Then if you can find that news hook and hang one of your messages off of it, for instance, if there's a huge flood in a certain area and you were doing some work in that area, then you say, oh, look, there's been a flood in this area, and guess what? We're there and we're doing these things.
Right.
And here's a video on the tail end of that to show what we're doing, or a video about the area or whatever you're trying to show.
Right. Obviously with individuals. And we've done so many things that you would just never have previously thought of. Just interview somebody. Zip out the little camera and do a 1 or 2 minute interview. It's so easy to do. Whoever's going to be mentioned in your press release, instead of just going quote, 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 make a 1 minute 30 little interview with each one of those people that are mentioned in the news release, and then you've got 3 little videos to go with it.
I mean, just put yourself in the position of the consumer. It takes you back to the early days of radio, where something would be printed and you would read the quote, but then you would hear that on the wireless on the radio, and that would immediately, you would be taken to that world. You could embed yourself in that person's world and universe. You could feel what they were feeling, and they were human, and there was a human attachment and connection as opposed to just reading that printed word on the page. Now you have the capability of putting that exact feeling, but in video, in their hand.
And from the journalist's point of view, you have to realize that as much as the news has changed for the consumer, the practice of journalism is 100% not what it used to be.
Yeah.
It's a completely new world. Every journalist that works on any kind of an outlet, even if it's a print outlet, when they go for a story, they are told, here's your assignment, this is the story, and come back with an image, an audio clip, and a video clip.
Yep.
So they kind of have become a one-man band. They're desperate for this content. 85% of all media websites are using video. They want video. So, and you have to realize that newspapers and magazines and radio stations don't have edit suites like the TV stations do.
No. So what they're doing is they're basically asking you to provide them with that content, and that puts you in an incredibly powerful position as PR practitioners, because you can get your message to them, and they're going to pass your message on. And that's, if that's not what we're here for, I don't know what we're here for.
And of course, it needs to be interesting. Nobody's going to watch it if it's ho-hum, boring, boring, boring.
Yeah.
And it's got to be interesting right out of the gate. Because
the difference is, back in the day, they had no way to fast forward it. When you were broadcasting, and they had to sit and listen. Now they have the powers in their hand. They can go, no, I want to skip forward. I want to skip forward 30 seconds, 10 seconds, and it's the drag of a finger along a line. It's that quick. And the other thing is that YouTube doesn't even counter view until they've watched for 10 seconds. So if it's dreary, 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 with long before the 10 seconds, I'm gone. Yeah, and if they bounce, then that doesn't count as a view, and no one's going to share it.
Yeah. So this applies to pretty much everything in life, but very much so for videos. Short is better.
Keep it simple.
Very short and simple.
Well, not simple necessarily, but keep it short.
Okay. And this is a really good advice from an article written by Scott Simon from NPR. And he says the way to make videos so that they're shareable is tell a story, which we're very good at. It's what the things that we do in PR, is find the story and tell the story. But I liked his first point where he said, if you can give them some really vivid detail about what you're talking about. So if we go back to Cody's example, if there was a flood in some place, if you're going to do a video, show something really vivid and interesting. When people look at the video, they go, oh my God, that's amazing.
Or horrifying, or something. You get an emotion straight out of them, straight out of the gate. Whether this is an incredibly cute thing, you've never seen anything as cute as this, or this is an incredible solution to an amazing problem that's been solved, and these people have never had a solution to it before, and look how bad this problem was. That sort of stuff.
So this is another quote from the Clue Train. And this is one of the things that we definitely see in looking at what the consumers are doing on social media and what companies are doing and what journalists need and want and what companies are providing. Mm-hmm. There is definitely a gap. They are getting smarter than we are, and we're missing opportunities.
Yeah.
This is one of the opportunities. Online video, I firmly believe, is the biggest PR opportunity we've seen in a long time.
So this is why people share their content, okay? And the first one is an emotional response, and we've all felt that. You feel something, and it may be elation, or it may be, oh my God, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. We have to stop them killing the animal in the small jungle and forward it immediately, right? Whatever that is. Whatever your emotional response is, that's why you will forward that content. And it may be, a lot of the time for news, we're trying to get that buy-in, that emotional response. What is it that makes somebody sit up and go, I have to watch this video, and I think I should get my friends to watch this video because this is important to me and what we're doing here?
Very often when you're doing it in a business setting, it's not necessarily so dramatic, but there are always interesting stories. For instance, one client that we did work for, he does concrete cutting, and when I first spoke to him, he said, don't be ridiculous, there's nothing in this business that you could possibly write about. I cut holes in pieces of concrete. This has to be the most boring thing in the universe. But when we really dug into, well, which holes and which pieces of concrete and which walls, where are they, what have you done?
And that's when it gets really, really interesting, because that's where you get the human story. And then it's a story of somebody that tried to get this wall cut out in their apartment, and he couldn't get it done, and this client was the only guy that could do it, and it was a specific machine, and it was all these stories up.
And he did also the original quad at Stanford. He did all the seismic retrofitting. And it was an incredible operation to do that, so that now when you walk in there, you'd never know it was touched. So a video about that and how they did it and how they took each stone apart one by one and then drilled this thing and put it back, and the interviews with the people made a fantastic story.
And the thing is, these emotional hooks and human angles come out in the edit. A lot of the time you will shoot the stuff. If you don't have a strong script, a lot of the time you're trying to find the story in some of the events that you've had. Now, if you've got a video or a release about an event, that again is another way to get all of these self-expression and useful information and things that you want to share specifically from your organization. Those are the things, one of the videos that you'll be putting out.
So this was a statement that was made in an article today, actually, on compro.biz. I recently haven't seen videos on page one, but I know that Google definitely is giving Google juice to the videos. So it does help your SEO. How do you do the SEO? The title of the video is really, really important. So this one is called iPhone 4 Manufacturing Movie. Well, iPhone 4 is good because people will be looking for that.
Yeah.
However, if you look at the bottom of this image, it says no description available. That's really a bad thing. You need a good title with keywords. You need a description. You should have a complete transcript of the video on the page because Google can't see videos. They read text. And then you need what's called an XML video sitemap. That is a techie thing. You need to speak to your webmaster or your IT department. Or if you don't have any feeds on your newsroom and you're interested in upgrading your online newsroom, of course, that's what we do, is PRESSfeed. And this is a really good example
of when you're actually using and utilizing the things that YouTube has given you the tools to use. So there's actually a proper title, and the first thing is your brand name. So it's right up front, so that when you do Google search, those are the first words, nothing's cut off. You can have a really long title if you want, but if you do have that, then make sure to have your keywords or your brand name up front. At the bottom, you do have a proper description with a link. Now the link is there, you're able to put all of that in, and these things are very, very useful and powerful.
So to get it distributed, again, there are some tags you can put in your RSS feed. You can submit that to Google as the XML sitemap. Those are two techie things that have to be done by others. But the one thing that's really, really important is all of these video sharing sites, Vimeo, River, YouTube, they all give you what is called an embed code, so that you can embed it somewhere else. That's what it's for. So this is on YouTube. When you click the share button that you find underneath any video, it will give you the link, and then there's a little button you can click for embed, and then it gives you this little piece of code here.
So now that piece of code is very, very important for you to actually distribute your video properly and get the proper amount of reach. Now, embed code is not just a hot link. It's going to embed the video on the page that they want to put it on, which means it then comes up in a window and it's playable. So
an interesting statistic, 85% of all media websites are using video. 76% of them, when asked how would you like to receive video from PR people, said with an embed code. 76% of them. And it's fairly new. A year ago, that wasn't mentioned. Just boom, from nothing to 76%. So that's what they want. We did a study late last year looking at Fortune 100, Inc. 500, the Entrepreneur Hot 100, and then we broke it down into travel and hotels and food and drink and all different things. So we've looked at hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of websites, and only 11% of corporate and company websites offer an embed code. So there's a huge gap here. The journalists are asking for it. The web editors are asking for it. We are not providing it. So yeah, there is. It's grown from a significant trend to a stampede. That's from the American Journalism Review just like a week or so ago. So where do the journalists go when they're looking? We know they're going to Facebook and Twitter, but they are also looking for videos. We know that they're looking for videos. And they have said, there were 3 or 4 different journalist surveys done last year. And on all of them, they said if there's a really good image, and if there's a video in particular, it will increase your chances that I use your news significantly. And that makes total sense to me because they're all being told, bring me a video, bring me a video.
I mean, if you're in his position, then, or her position, whatever, you then have a choice. And I'm going to either put out this story, and it doesn't have a video, or I can put out this one, and it's got a really interesting video. Which one are you going to pick? That's simple, really.
So let's get into a little bit of the nitty-gritty. And we're going to look at when you're ready to do this thing, what do you need?
So depending on the type of video, there's a couple of different types of video that you're going to add to a news release. Like I said earlier, if there's an event, that's a different thing. You can crowdsource video, and we'll probably do another webinar about something like that. But if you're going to do a scripted video, which we recommend, that way you have control over it, and you can also get, and this is important, client buy-in. Because you're going to have to, if you're in a financial institution, go through compliance or anything like that. If you're a smaller company, you may not have to worry. You might just be one-man band taking care of business. This is a way to look at your video and your audio at the same time and lay it out like this, so it's pretty easy for you to look at. And you can see, all right, these are the shots, and this is what we're going to have a look at while we have, and we're going to script our video. The reason that this is incredibly important is for you to then look at your voiceover or your script, and you can get in all of the salient points and your keywords. So now you know where you're going, and you can start looking for images or ideas to hang off of that script. That script is your basis, and you can then start working from that. So a shot sheet is a very important thing. I like to work this way. It's something that you learn when you first go to film school, and it's just a very simple thing that anybody in any business would do. Figure out what you need. So now we've got our script, and we know that these are certain shots and certain things that need to be told. If you can't get the shot for some reason, if the light is bad, if your digital file gets corrupted, for any reason, just remember that you can go online to sites like Fotalia and for relatively cheap pick up high-quality digital stills. These are really, really great for video. A high-quality still can be made to move around the frame, around the screen, and you can add music to it. And for certain things where you want to punch up an emotional attachment. Like, for instance, we're busy making a video at the moment for a big mall, and we don't have any shots of people shopping because they're still building the thing, so we're putting in shots of family shopping and that sort of stuff. That then goes out with the news release about the launch, and you get the idea. So go through it and see what it is that you think that you would need.
Tell them all these things.
So a WS is a wide shot outside the grocery store. Okay? So you'd have a wide shot, which is from far away, you're going to see outside your grocery store. Then you see a woman getting a cart and she's entering. And then there's a shot of the woman grouping the items on her list, right? Over the shoulder shot. And then a mid shot. So from sort of your waist up or a little bit higher and showing some headroom above her. Then we've got browsing the produce. Then we have a close-up of the fruits being picked through, and those sorts of things. So you can see how you put together, and you just basically are doing this in your head. If you are, I'm not particularly good at drawing. I sometimes get people to do these for me, but they don't have to be pretty pictures. They can literally be stick men in squares. And that way you get to cross it off once you've got your shot. So you put these on a whiteboard, and once you're done, you put a big red line through it, and you know that you've done that shot. That way, it's like a checklist, and you can see it visually. And afterwards, you take all of your footage, and you can go through it and start piecing it together. The storyboard is very important because you can see it visually before you even shoot, and you are able to move those scenes around and see how you want to tell your story. So, never be without a video camera. Now that video is so important, you can't be without a video camera at any point, especially in this business. You never know when the news hook is going to suddenly arrive.
Some things happen all the time. You might just be sitting around in a meeting and someone starts to say something and you go, oh my goodness, we could do something with that. Zip out your iPhone.
Either a smartphone, HTC, you know, the 4G LTE, or you have your iPhone 4GS, or whatever phone you like to use. If it should have the modern smartphones. I use my iPhone 4, and they have apps in them. You can use the 8mm app on the iPhone, which turns your iPhone into an 8mm film camera. You have lighting capability on your iPhone as well for video. It has the flash that turns into what they call a PAG light, which is just a little light on it. The most important thing to remember when you're using an iPhone or a phone is don't video using the phone straight up. Turn it sideways, because if you have the phone straight up, it then puts it into a band on the side of the screen or right in the middle, and you have to split screen to use it. It doesn't come out panoramic. So your smartphones are good ones. Your Kodak is fantastic. We like to use that. It's really easy for conferences and business and those sorts of things. It's easy to keep steady, and it has an external mic. They're small and light. They're lighter than a cell phone, and they're really great.
Yeah, I keep mine in my purse all the time.
As far as I know, you can actually mount it on a tripod. You can get a really, yeah, you can. So what is really good at conferences and those sorts of things, or when interviews, you can, I mean, they're a couple $100, and you put two on little tripods, and then you get a multi-angle at the same time, which is really, really great because it ups your production value and you don't have to shoot twice, which I find really, really very, very helpful when you're dealing with somebody that only has a specific amount of time, can only really talk to you for 5 minutes, but you need to get that sound bite. You need that vox pop. So if you shoot on 2 cameras, you're able to get through a lot more and get a lot more out of them, and more naturally, so that they don't sound rehearsed when they're doing the 4th take. And then you're like, oh, this is the take I'm going to have to use. You have it natural already in the beginning. Shoot the rehearsal. Bigger camera. I like to personally use the Canon 60D. It has the internal workings of the Canon 7, which is a very expensive camera, but it's for about $1,000. With a warranty, it comes with lenses. It also has external mic capability, and it has a pop-out screen so that you don't have to get an added thing to see what you're shooting. It's all built into the camera, and it's super light. It's really a fantastic camera. There's also Sony's and Panasonics. As long as you have 3-chip digital or HD with 1080p, which means it's shooting in full HD, which is it's basically broadcast quality. pretty much anything from a GoPro up these days is shooting in 1080p. So
we have the Panasonic 900 as well that we use, but that we use more when we have somebody here and we're doing it with a green screen background, like we did for, we were doing interviews with speakers prior to a conference.
Yeah.
I find it a little big and bulky to carry with me. If I'm traveling, I won't take that one. Hello, Mr. Computer, you can wake up now. Come on. There we go. Yeah.
So sound quality is vital, people. Please do remember this. And I'm fond of saying something that was taught to me about 15 years ago by a film guy, and he told me sound is 200% of your movie. And it's true, because if you can't hear what's going on, then you absolutely are not able to follow the story. It's just not the same. If you don't hear what's going on, if they can't see you and hear you, you're not going to get your message across. So make sure your camera has an external microphone jack, because if the person is actually going to be speaking to you, you need to hear what they're saying. Otherwise, you're going to have to use a voiceover, or you're going to write subtitles across the screen to make sure that your audience get what you're saying. Get a good quality lapel mic. They really, well, how much was that one that we got for that Canon? For the,
It's like 30 bucks.
yeah, it's nothing. I mean, they really are next to nothing these days. And it's a very, very, very important thing to have.
And one of the questions that we had was, did we recommend any place to purchase? We don't really do that.
But the cameras or?
Yeah, no, go online, take a look.
You know, there's a bunch of, you'll find deals. I mean, it really depends. There's a million different camera places. I happen to buy one of them at Sammy's, and I bought another one at some other place, and I've got another one from a photographer. Yeah, you get them shipped off Amazon. Yeah. So it depends. It depends what equipment you want. Read the reviews and feel what's right for you. I've just told you what I like to use personally. If you want to go to, there's a good website, the Bowie Brothers. They're digital.
How do you spell them?
B-U-I. Okay. Brothers.
Okay, good. So lighting, particularly if you're in an office or you're in a conference, you might run into lighting problems. Always shoot in a place that has good light, but be careful that you don't have the light source behind your subject.
Yeah, I mean, it may sound like a silly thing, but if the light is behind your subject, you can't see what you're shooting, because the sensor within the camera registers the best lit object in front of it. And so it will go, well, I want to look at the sun now, and not at the person that you're trying to shoot. And their face goes dark and everything else is light behind them. Yeah. So you have to flip them around or find a place where they're lit. Light is very important, just as sound is. Remember that photography means writing with light. Photo, light, graphy to write. So you're writing with light. You're telling a story with light. And with video, you're absolutely telling a story with light. That's what we're doing, using light and music and the spoken word to tell a story.
Now, these little lights are also not expensive. You can see that you can get one that mounts directly on your camera. Yep. Or you can have it so that it comes in a little case and it goes on a tripod. Mm-hmm. So these things are not expensive. A couple of, I don't know, by the time you finish, what, like $500? And then it depends on the camera. If you the little ones, okay, if you're going to buy the $1,000 camera, but I'm talking about if you have a little camera, that's a couple of hundred. And
there's also ways around this, folks. You don't have to have ones built onto the camera. Like that's a Canon where you're putting it on the horseshoe that fits on the top for the flash. That's the sort of thing that I would be using. But I've also used, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, I've used wheelchairs and skateboards to get tracking shots. We've used hardware lights from Home Depot that cost 20 bucks. You know, as inventive as you are able to be, if you're shooting and you have a little bit of an understanding of what you're doing and you want to get your story out, you will do a great job as long as your editor is able to work with you.
When you've been working with this one client in New York, when they started off, the stuff they were sending us was not the greatest quality.
No.
And just with a little bit of this kind of training, she's now sending you terrific stuff.
Yeah, she is. And what I'd like to do with clients like that, they're a financial institution, And I just spent, I think all in all, an hour and a half on Skype, maybe not even that, with this lady. And, you know, she has a design background, so she has a good eye, but she'd never videoed ever before, and she hadn't taken photos. Now she's taking stills, and she's shooting the video and interviewing people and interviewing, you know, big hitters like chiefs of fire departments and mayors and all this kind of stuff. And she shot it on her tiny little Kodak with her lapel mic, and she's got great stuff. And she shoots the rehearsal, so she gets all the natural things. She puts it in Dropbox. We edit it here in LA, and then they approve it, and it's uploaded. And we have, I think, 20 videos now that really, she's done a great job.
And they're all showing up.
And they're all showing up in search with all of their things, and they're super, super happy with them. So.
And Koki mentioned this earlier, a lot of your success is going to depend on how it's edited.
It's how you tell your story, you know, it's the execution. And in that way, I'm really blessed, and I have a couple of really good editors. And in the last year and a half, I found one guy that I absolutely trust. He's fantastic. A lot of it's going to be your communication with your editor. How well do you get on? How well do they see your vision for different projects? Some editors are better for certain projects than other ones. Once you find that person, then you build that relationship, and you're ready to go. It shouldn't cost you too much money. That is also something to think about. How much is going to be dependent on the editor, dependent on their time. Remember that editing does take a lot of time. I prefer to work in ways where I pay them bulk amounts, and after a certain point, then there's 3 changes are allowed by clients or myself, and then after that you have to pay a certain hourly rate, because otherwise it can get really, really finicky and expensive. But the truth of the matter is, the story is being told and put together in the edit suite. The stuff that you've shot, all of that doesn't count until it's actually turned into the video. So you have to have that final maestro take care of it. All you have to do is yourself and know what you're doing.
And there are editing programs that you can get, from simple ones all the way up to Final Cut Pro. So if you are that way inclined, or you have someone in your office who can do it or learn to do it, then that would be another option.
And also just have a look at footage or other videos that are similar to the thing that you're trying to create, just so that you get an idea of what's out there and what's possible, so that you can either get inspired or work away from things that aren't your vibe. These are things that are important.
For little simple things like when I'm at conferences and I want to interview the speakers and put them on my blog, I don't go through the whole long editing thing. Those are really just you run and gun. I stick the camera and, you know, what was your main point of your talk? And then it becomes interviewing skills, I think. And I get them up within a couple of hours with a very simple editing. Just cut off the horrible parts and get the good sound bite, and it's up.
Yeah, and then those things are able, you know, if you're putting out a bunch of different videos with a bunch of different releases, there's a ton of different ways to get your message out. I mean, one of the things for one client we've done a whole series of videos, and he's talking about success and how to be successful, and it's one of those sorts of things. And so you then have a release that goes with each one. And so these are ways for you to get your content and your message out. As many different ways as you can think to hang a release and off a news hook, or create your own series of videos and news releases. Together, those are the things that are powerful.
Then, of course, you have to house all your news releases with your videos, in an online newsroom. Now, as I was saying a little earlier, we did a study of online newsrooms across hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of company and corporate websites, and very few of them are social media ready. A lot of the newsroom vendors, there are many, Tech Group, iPressroom, My News Desk, Cision has one, MarketWire has one. They all offer these newsrooms, but very few of them are totally social media ready. You need to be able to put your video in so that you can get this embed code. So this was one that we did. This was the one that Koki was talking about. I don't know. But you can see down here that it puts in the link and the embed code. So here are our takeaways from today's video, for today's webinar. It's really not difficult, and it isn't expensive.
No, I mean, if you think about what video and film used to cost, it really, really, really is very cheap. You're able to create a powerful message that goes out to potentially hundreds of thousands of people, if not millions of people, for under $5,000 for a full, complete video where you own your music, you own everything on it, and you have a digital asset that can be housed anywhere. So build a really good video team, and once you have your good video team, you're then able to tap them and their resources to move you and your company forward at any point. Now, optimizing your video for search and your title description, that's very, very, very important. Otherwise, it's just going to disappear into the doldrums of the internet, and all of that effort for making your video. I really want to make a little point about this, because we've run into this again and again where we've taken on clients and we're now doing new stuff. And one of the first questions I've learned to ask is, do you have any digital assets over the last few years? And generally the answer is yes. And when you ask where they are, oh no, they're on our YouTube channel, or they're in a hard drive somewhere, or they're on another channel. And when you pull them up, there's no title, no description, they've just been put there. And so no one can find them. So they've spent all of this time and all of this money, and all you have to do is get into the channel, put in your title, put in your description, put in your links, and suddenly they pop up.
Then the second one, that one about the media RSS and the video sitemaps, I did mention you're going to need IT help for that, or someone like PRESSfeed or a webmaster. You must put your videos into your online newsroom. Make sure they have embed codes. Make sure you've got the sharing capability. Please, because you really want people to share them, and always, always offer your embed code. Koki, I have a question from one of the attendees. Could we give any advice on a sort of mid-range editing suite for Mac? He says Final Cut is like too hectic.
Too hectic and too expensive. Have you tried iMovie? Is that too little for you?
He says that's too little. What's with GarageBand?
Oh, that's
no.
sound.
Okay.
Those are the ones I really use, either iMovie or I use Avid or Final Cut, the new one. So
well, I can
ask around. I can ask around and have a look for you. Absolutely. Send Sally or me an email and we'll get back to you.
Yeah, you can send me an email if you have any other questions. Sally@press-feed.com. And we're quite happy to look around and see what you guys need, or if you have any other questions.
I can ask one of either Rowan or Crescendo or the other boys. I'll get hold of them in 2 minutes anyway.
So thank you very much for being with us this morning. I hope this has given you a lot to think about.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And we'll catch you next month on the next webinar. Thank you. Bye.